9777. 1-800-669-9777. Welcome back to the new #1 morning show in Northwest Indiana. News, sports, education, entertainment. Wake up, GI, with Jeffrey Smith. Brought to you by the Geary Community Schools Corporation.
All right, everybody, we're back about the top of the hour right now on a beautiful Tuesday. It is the 14th of March. Can you believe it? 2023. This is Wake Up GI with Jeffrey Smith. As we promised, and like I said, I will apologize for the oversight. I just got a lot of stuff going on right now, but we got a wonderful guest, a lineup of guests coming up right now. And we're going to start off with a young lady that is an entrepreneur. I love talking to people who are going out there gambling on themselves. Her name is Miss LaTasha Norris. She is with Onyx, and so we're going to meet her in just a bit, and then coming up at the bottom of the hour, see if I can get that. I think we're going to be talking about sensations. Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to them as well. But without further ado, as I said, we got a young lady in studio right now, and of course she's got her support team sitting out there in the audience. We're going to talk about that, but let's go ahead and introduce ourselves to Miss Norris. What's up? Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing? Well, first of
I'm
all,
doing well.
Thank you for taking time out of your Tuesday to come here and hang with us and tell us a little bit about yourself. But start off, tell us about the business, because you're with Onyx, correct?
Yes.
Tell us what that is.
So Onyx Fingerprinting and Lab Service
Nice.
is a fingerprinting, drug and alcohol testing, and background screening office.
Now, wait a minute. Did we talk before? Did I interview before about this? Because this sounds...
No.
Because this sounds uniquely familiar. I don't know. Maybe I've heard about this or dreamed about it. I don't know. But tell me about this. Fingerprinting, drug screening, things like this. So this obviously is going to apply to employers who are looking to kind of do background checks and things like that.
Yes, so it applies to employers looking to do pre-employment background testing, fingerprinting, and drug testing. Fingerprinting there is an array of people who use those services.
Yeah.
People don't actually know adoption services.
Yeah.
People who are trying to get citizenship.
Right.
Expungement.
Yeah.
So it's a wide variety of people who need fingerprinting.
Now I've got to ask you, how did you get into this? Because I mean, first of all, I'm assuming this isn't your normal profession, but this is very unique. It's actually smart because it really delves deep. How did you get into this? What made you want to get into this?
So, it wasn't anything that I thought of.
Yeah.
Always wanted to do. It was actually introduced to me by my cousin. In business and being an entrepreneur, you learn all different kind of terms.
Right.
And one term you have to learn and be very familiar with is pivot.
It's pivot. Be able to pivot on it.
Be able to pivot.
Yeah.
I had a nail salon prior to having the getting into fingerprinting.
Right.
And because of COVID,
I was about to go there because everybody I've talked to who have kind of gotten into business have kind of really stepped up to the plate. And I always say, listen, pandemic bad, but there was a silver lining in COVID for a lot of people where they looked across the kitchen table at their spouse or significant other, maybe their family member, and said, you know what? Enough of this. I'm going to take charge. I'm going to do something. I'm going to rethink my life. But yeah, so I'm glad to hear that. Go ahead, finish your story.
COVID made me have to close.
Yeah.
Just for the safety of me and all of my clients.
Yeah.
I just felt I closed. And then getting the momentum back to start it back up, it just wasn't there for me.
Right.
And so my cousin, who has the same type of business in Las Vegas, introduced the business to me.
Right.
And so she was like, well, try something different. And when she first introduced it to me, I'm like, that sounds a lot like medical.
Right.
And I'm not a medical profession.
Right.
So I went out to Vegas to her opening. She did a grand opening. I went out, saw her office, sat with her for a while. Then she came out here and mentored me. Right. And got me started and open. But it wasn't anything that, you know how people say, it was always my dream.
Right.
It was never a dream.
No, I get it.
Anything like that. But it was introduced to me by my cousin.
Now, that's interesting because when you bring up Vegas and her doing doing this in Vegas, you can kind of see it. You know what I mean? You have these casinos.
That's what
You
I
have a
thought.
lot of people kind of coming through, and so these casinos, these businesses, they want to kind of get as thorough a background as they can. So you kind of see this kind of happening. What made you think that this could work here in Northwest Indiana?
I started researching it.
Yeah.
So, because exactly what you said is what I thought.
Yeah.
Because I have a casino background.
Okay.
So I know, that they need fingerprinting and drug testing. And I'm like, that's a big world for you in Vegas.
Yeah.
It's not that big for me here.
Right.
So I'm like, I don't know if the concept will apply.
Yeah.
But anything that I get into, I research.
Nice.
So that I can talk the talk and walk the walk.
Right.
I'm just not out saying, oh, I opened this, but I don't know anything about it. So I started researching. And that's when I found out fingerprinting goes far beyond the scope of just employment.
Right.
You have, like I said, the adoption agencies. That's huge.
Yeah.
Nursing.
Yeah.
Doctors. Real estate. All of those people need to be fingerprinted.
No, that's interesting because, when you think, obviously when you hear fingerprinting, it feels a little bit more invasive than a drug screening. And so
Right.
I want to ask you about that, how, your clients and the kind of people and the kind of circles you move because, usually, I think most people expect nowadays that when you're applying for a job, any job, that you're going to be asked to, have some sort of background check and drug screening. But then when you start to think about, oh, they're going to take my fingerprint, it just becomes a little bit more intimidating and it feels a little bit more invasive. Now, who have you started to go out and deal with? How is that coming across? Are there individual clients that come up to you, or do you kind of market yourself to businesses?
So right now they have been individual, and they have been people actually finding me from Google.
Nice.
So when I first opened the office, I did a Google My Business. I was like, that's the first thing I should do so people know where I am.
Right.
And it's a really funny story, but I did the Google My Business on like that Friday.
Yeah.
And I left the office.
Right.
When I got back, I had messages, and the phone was ringing.
Literally?
And of course, I want the phone to ring.
Right.
But it kind of made me nervous, like,
already?
Yeah, already? Who's calling? And so when you are marketing, you always want to know which initiatives work
Yeah.
and which ones don't work. So the very first thing I ask a person immediately upon speaking with them is, how did you hear about me?
Right.
And they say, I Googled fingerprinting near me. And the most astounding thing was they said, and in this area, you're the only one that comes up.
Now that is absolutely, that lets you know that you're, out there creating a market for yourself. But I got to ask you, so who, I mean, without obviously giving away the identity and things like that, but who was the first client? I mean, what were they needing?
The first client was actually my very first client was a young lady who moved here from Arizona.
Okay.
And she needed it for teaching because she needed it to become a teacher in Munster.
Okay.
She was becoming a teacher in Munster, and because I wasn't sure, because there's two different type ways you can fingerprint.
Right.
You can do the regular ink and roll, and then now they've come out, everything is digital.
Right.
You actually can capture fingerprints digitally and print them out.
Yeah.
But that's an expense. So when I first started, I didn't want to incur that expense just yet.
Right.
Because I didn't know where the business was going.
Right.
So I was just doing regular ink
Mm-hmm.
and, the ink and the pad.
Right.
And my very first customer was a lady who moved here from Arizona. And I did her on just a regular ink and roll.
Now that's kind of interesting because, when you think about these things, you would normally think that people would go to the police departments or something like that. But you are a kind of private entity kind of coming out here in a niche. Now, so how does that work? Because as I said, I've been fingerprinted before, and I think I went to the police department. I didn't know about my other options, or obviously I don't think you were in business yet. But how does that work? Do you kind of compete against the police departments? Do the police departments not do it anymore? How does it work?
So here's the thing. Most police departments have kind of stopped.
Okay.
Some of them will fingerprint for their own
purposes.
For the people, like if you live in that neighborhood.
Okay, I got you.
So like if you live in, say, like Maryville, you can go to Maryville Police Department. They only do it on certain days.
Right.
and they don't supply the cards.
Yeah.
So if a person has to go through trying to get that day for them, it's really not convenient.
Right.
If they have to find the day that you're doing it, and then they have to go and find fingerprint cards.
Yeah.
Well, if you buy a pack of fingerprint cards and you only need one, you would more than likely go to a private, try to find a private entity. Hammond does not fingerprint. My business is in downtown Hammond.
Nice.
It's in a Hammond development
in that
center.
Holman area? Okay.
On Holman Avenue.
Yeah.
Hammond Police Department does not do it at all anymore.
Right.
So I had a client, like I said, I asked, how did you hear about me? She said, she said, I went to the Hammond Police Department.
Right.
And they don't do it anymore.
Right.
So she said, so I Googled fingerprinting near me and you came up.
Yeah.
And she was a young lady and she says, but I got a suggestion for you. You should take some of your business cards.
I was about to tell you, take your business cards to the police station.
She said you should take some of your business cards to the Hammond Police Department. And I take advice from anybody.
Yeah.
If you give me some sound advice that makes sense,
yeah,
I'm going with it.
Right.
So I did. The next morning, I woke up early and I went to the Hammond Police Department and I spoke to the gentleman and he said that they had just stopped last year.
Right.
He said, we stopped doing it last year. And he said, give me a lot of your business cards. And now when I ask people, how did you hear about me? And it's credible because it's coming from
the police department.
From the police department. They say, I went to the Hammond Police Department. They don't do it anymore, but they sent me, because the Hammond Police Department is right behind me.
Yeah.
And they say they sent me here.
Nice. Now, have you kind of expanded and gone to neighboring cities, police departments, and things of that nature?
The only bite that I got
is Hammond.
Oh, okay. Because I went to Calumet City, because if you know where we sit at on Holman Avenue,
right,
if you cross the street, you're in Illinois.
Yeah, yeah.
Which has done a great thing for the business as well, because you're kind of capturing both those audiences. But the only bite that I got was from Hammond.
Right. Well, like I said, I think that that's going to change, because I see more and more, police stations, police departments probably hearing about you and hearing about this probably would just consider the outsource, because they got other stuff to worry about.
Right.
Other than folks coming in there trying to get fingerprints for their jobs. We're talking with Miss LaTasha Norris of Onyx. That's the name of your company, yes, correct? And she is here telling us about this wonderful idea that she had and how she's grown this business into a unique niche that I really never even thought about. I never thought that there was an opportunity out here to do it, and so I definitely have to give you kudos for that. So kind of tell me about the range. As you said, you are obviously operating in Hammond. You have that Calumet City. Have you kind of branched over into Maryville, Gary, and any of those other Porter County?
So here's the thing. Yesterday, I had a lady to come in, and she came all the way from Crown Point.
Yeah.
A lot of my clients are coming from Crown Point.
Yeah.
Valparaiso.
Valpo, yeah. Now that's Porter County. Nice.
Really far. I had a man, and I think he might have just been kind of in the area.
Yeah.
With his family, but he was from Mishawaka.
Oh my goodness!
So the people are coming from a distance, because the service it's a needed service that is just not widely offered.
Did you realize that? I mean, what was it like when you just like you're telling me this story? You're the only one doing this right now. So when did you kind of just sit back in your office and you're like, oh my goodness, nobody's doing it.
So I opened in May.
Yeah.
And probably about, I'll say, well, it didn't take me long to actually purchase the machine.
Right.
Because I was doing the inks. I opened in May, and I did the inks until July.
Right.
And then about July is when I realized it's something to this. And so the cost expense to buy the digital machine was well worth it.
Yeah.
And it's paying for itself.
Oh my goodness! Listen, this is absolutely amazing. You and I were talking briefly before we went on the air, and I always like to do this with people who come on. Let's get into a little bit of your background. You broke a family curse, or at least that's how you look at it. I look at it as you broke the legacy when you only did 1 year at Roosevelt. Yes. And as I said, but give us a little bit of your background. Where were you born and raised, and what was your journey like?
So I was born and raised in Gary.
Yeah.
I went to I went to St. Monica, and my earlier
Yeah,
years.
yeah,
In
elementary.
Catholic school. And I wanted to be like everybody else and go to public school.
Yeah.
And I begged my mother.
Yeah.
And so I went to Tolleson.
She relented.
she gave up. She didn't want to.
Yeah.
But she gave up. I went to Tolleson. I did try Roosevelt 1 year.
Yeah.
But after that 1 year, my sophomore year, I went to Westside.
Right.
So I graduated Westside in 1989.
Oh, okay. Well, like, once again, we forgive you. You can make penance here on this show. And then after you graduated high school, what were you
After
doing?
I graduated high school, I was part of the groups program.
Yeah.
If anybody remembers groups.
Yeah.
And I went to.
Remind us what groups is.
So groups is it's an organization where it helps you to go to college.
Right.
And I went to Indiana University, Bloomington.
Nice.
Yeah, and I spent a year there. Then I came back home. After that, I started off, my first professional job was at Gaynor Bank.
Oh my goodness! I remember Gaynor Bank.
It was at Gaynor Bank on 17th and Broadway.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
I worked at Gaynor Bank on 17th and Broadway.
You were right there when every other year was changing its name.
And yeah, because I started at, when I got hired, it was Gaynor.
Yeah.
Then it went to MBD.
Yes.
It went to MBD Bank, and I think it was MBD Bank when we closed. But that first job there is what shaped my career and my professional life.
Yeah.
I stayed there for 8 years under some very good people.
Right.
If anybody knows Essie Collins,
Yeah.
Essie was my manager. And Essie was very stern about what she wanted.
Yeah.
But those things that she taught me back in 1996 or 7.
Yeah.
Shaped me and made me who I am.
Now, did you want to get into the working in the financial institutions? Obviously not now with the collapse of 2 major banks, but you typically, when you're putting that kind of skin in the game, that kind of time working in banking, which I consider to be very serious, a lot of times people tend to want to kind of stay in the financial realm.
And I did. I felt like I would be there forever, right? But what happened was, they said that particular branch wasn't performing.
Right.
And it closed.
Wow.
So I didn't know what I was going to do,
Right.
actually, because I felt like, I'm going to be here forever.
Right, right.
We were
Did you
just
think
like,
about applying at any other branch or any other bank?
So we had the opportunity to go to other branches.
Yeah.
And I had been to other branches, like doing extra work.
Right.
But none of them
wasn't home.
like family,
Yeah.
like 17th Midtown.
Right.
All the experiences we had there. So I had no plans.
Cashing all those meal checks.
And Essie called me in the office and asked me what was my plan.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know. And she was like, you have any plans? The casinos were opening.
Oh.
And she said, well, I have, because everything that she told me to do, I did it.
Right.
Because I just trusted
Right.
her guidance.
She was a mentor.
Yeah, she was a mentor to me. And so she gave me information to go and apply for the casinos.
Yeah.
And I took that information and I went and applied for the casinos, and I worked there for 20 years.
Oh my goodness. So what was that like?
At first, it was fun.
It's totally different than a bank.
It was totally different from the bank.
Yeah.
First of all, you had to get up at midnight to go to work.
Oh my, really?
Because I worked midnight, so that was the biggest change.
So what was your position? Where'd you work?
I started off as a cage cashier.
Oh, okay. All right. So
I started off as a cage cashier with all the money, and I thought, this is gonna be easy.
Right.
I worked at the bank.
Right.
I see more money. No.
Not like a casino.
Not like a casino at all. It was nothing to hit $1 million.
Right.
So I did that for 20 years. I started off as a cage cashier, and over the years I just moved up the ranks.
Yeah.
And I eventually, when I quit,
Yes.
I was the overnight cage manager.
Oh my God! No, I got to ask you because I've always been curious about this. Matter of fact, my wife and I, we were kind of over in Michigan City over the weekend just to kind of do a little shopping, spend overnight, and I was over at the Blue Chip, and I remember I had gone downstairs to get a little snack or whatever, and I think it was actually early in the morning, and I don't gamble or anything like that. I go into casinos every once in a while, but I was looking over onto the main floor, and there literally were people coming out of there at like 4 and 5 in the morning. I mean, I'm like, what are you doing in here at overnight gambling? Yeah. So what was it like? I mean, you said you're going to work at 12. It was like a party
every night.
Yeah. What kind of people come in and gamble?
When I first started, I felt like I get to get up, get dressed, and go to a party every night.
Yeah.
This is the coolest thing in the world. But over time,
and they wear you down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a very demanding job, and the weekend, the casino never closes.
It never closes.
I cannot tell you, and my mother's here, she is a testament to how many times I got stuck out there in a snowstorm.
Yeah.
Because it never closes.
Yeah.
And so over time, it just begins to be just a daunting task. And it's not a party anymore.
No, I could just imagine. And, does it kind of wear you down? Like I said, once again, you're working overnight, and I know once you're inside, the lights are all on, and it just kind of feels like a normal thing. But do you ever just kind of... Do you find yourself people watching?
All the time.
You know what I'm saying? Because people who go gamble in the middle of the night, I'm sorry, there's something to be said
all
for
the
that.
time.
Yeah.
You just standing there. If you talking to the staff and doing stuff, but you just watching people, and it was like an amazement. Like it's 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and the casino is by design. Don't be fooled. If you notice. And people probably don't. You don't see windows.
No.
You don't.
They don't want you to know what it looks like outside.
You don't see clocks.
No.
So you have no sense of time.
Right.
Or what time of day it is. The carpet and the light. All of that stuff is by design.
Right. There's psychology behind it.
Yes, there's psychology behind that. So you just watching, like I said, and it was just amazing to see. It is 4 o'clock in the morning, and you still at that machine.
And you still at that machine going for it.
Yeah.
So let me ask you. So after 20 years there, it kind of brings us back to where we are now. You decide, you know what? I'm done working for somebody else. And you mentioned that you had a business which was a nail salon. Was that your first foray into entrepreneurship?
Actually, it was not. I feel like I've always been some type of entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I've always done something, even as I was a single parent. And in the early 90s, I sold jewelry.
Oh, my goodness.
I sold jewelry. So
you've always been a hustler.
Yeah, I partnered, and I would find, because what perfect place was it to sell stuff to women, but in a beauty salon?
Absolutely.
So I partnered with each salon owner that I knew.
Yeah.
And on Saturdays when I left the bank, I would have all these earrings and jewelry and different accessories in my car.
Yeah.
And I would go to I would ask the owner, hey, if I come in your salon, if I make a sale, I'll give you some. It was a barter with them to let me, and I became the earring lady.
Yeah.
The earring purse lady. Like, where's the earring purse lady at? And I started on 5th and Broadway and went all the way up until about 50th. selling jewelry out of my car. So I felt like that was my first entrepreneurial experience.
Yeah.
And
so then when did you go out here and get your, because that is absolutely amazing, but then you made that leap in which you got your own brick and mortar where you were paying rent. You now had overhead. You went and got your spot.
So it wasn't actually a salon that was outside.
Okay.
My husband recreated my basement.
Oh, cool.
So he bought all my furniture.
Yeah. And
we turned the basement into a salon.
Nice.
Yeah.
We
turned the basement into a salon. But I was just talking to him one day, and speaking of, okay, I've had enough of this. I had gotten to a point at the casino where I had to make a decision to either move up or move out.
Right.
And I didn't want to do it anymore, so I didn't want to move up.
Right.
And that's when I just had a small conversation.
Was it just weighing down on you all the time, just those receipts and just looking at that money? And then I'm assuming if you're in the cage, you're going to have to interact with the public, and sometimes it can just be a little bit frustrating.
Just a bit much.
Yeah, because they want their money.
And you're missing all the holidays.
Yeah, yeah.
You're missing all of everything. You trying to fit everything, because like overnights was my choice.
Right.
But it's a knack.
Yeah.
And you have to be very creative about living life outside of working midnight.
Yeah.
Because you got to get sleep.
Yes.
So in the daytime,
what time would you get off? Because I
got off
over
at 8.
Okay, so you're getting off. Everybody else is headed in to start their day. That's really the way the the cycle works. I mean, you're right. You're kind of outside the grid if you're working overnight, but you still have to take care of your business affairs. You know, if you got to go to the bank, you got to go out here and do things. You have to operate in that window.
Right.
So I mean, you're getting off at 8. What do you do?
So I loved it because I felt like I loved it.
No, go ahead.
Because I felt like the bank, the grocery store, anyway, everybody was at work. So you could get there, you could get in and out really quick.
Yeah.
But it just was losing the time with my family.
Right, I can see
and
that.
my family is extremely important to me.
Absolutely.
So I just was like, and it did what it needed to do. It allowed me to raise my son.
Yeah.
You know, for me to be able to do things for him, but I just didn't want to do it anymore.
I know. Listen, I totally can appreciate that because it does seem, you know, obviously your son he's going to school, he's operating on the 12-hour thing, and here's his mom, you know, who's squeezing it all in, but you obviously taking care of business at midnight and you're getting off at 8. So how often did you kind of miss each other?
We missed each other a lot.
Yeah.
My mother was
a big part.
A big part. She was a huge part of that.
Yeah.
Because she made sure that he got to school. She made sure that, you know, he was taken care of.
Right.
In between everything that she was doing.
Right.
But she was the piece to that puzzle.
Absolutely.
That kept that together. Without her, I wouldn't have been able to do it. We coerced her to move with us.
Nice.
We had her over on a Friday night. And we just kept trying to play.
Kind of worked on her for about 24, 48 hours.
For 48 hours,
Yeah.
and by Monday she lived with us.
There you go. That's how you do it. You kind of bring her over and be like, hey,
Yeah.
Mom, think about staying here. I'm
and
never
she was
taking
like,
her home.
I don't want to stay here.
Yeah,
But
got my own place.
it worked
Yeah.
because you need, in anything that you do in life,
Right.
you need a support system.
Yep.
And, you know, because you can't do it alone.
No, you can't.
And so she was my huge support system through that part of my life.
That's an amazing story. It really is. I'm so glad that we had the opportunity to hear it. As we get ready to wrap it up, let's bring it back to Onyx. Go ahead and tell us the logistics about that, because I think that, first of all, I want to once again give you genuine kudos for really going out here, looking under stone. You're getting advice that's just all the way from Vegas and really creating something that, for the most part, is going to be your market alone. And I'm sure, like I said, other police departments and things like that, once they kind of start to hear that there is an agency out here in the community, I'm almost certain that they'll probably start sending stuff your way. But that is absolutely a bold move, period. I think it's smart, and I wish you all the luck. So give us the logistics, the hours of operation, how can people find you, and your website.
All right, so I am located in the Hammond Development Corporation in downtown Hammond at 5233 Holman Avenue.
Yeah.
In Suite 105. I have a website, and the website is onyxfingerprinting.com.
Yes.
The phone number to the office is 219-803-6542. We are open Monday through Friday.
Right.
You don't need an appointment. The services are so quick, you don't need an appointment. So anytime that you can pop in, it's just walk-ins.
Right.
Because you're in and out. One of the what I'm trying to introduce as well with the fingerprinting, the drug testing and everything is the time.
Right.
Because people's time is important.
Yeah.
And so it's a 15, 20-minute service. You're in and out. No appointment needed.
I like that. I like that. And let me ask you this before you get out of here. Is there some kind of national registry or something that you have to be a member of or certified to be able to go out here and kind of access people's past or their doc or send off, like, for instance, the fingerprint? Do are you all, or people who do that, is there like a membership of a database or something? How does that work?
So Indiana does not have really any like stipulations or certifications. Illinois does.
Right.
Illinois is a little bit more stringent.
Yeah.
And you have to actually go through training and be a certified vendor for Illinois, which I'm going through now.
Nice.
Because it's important because of the border sitting on the
Exactly.
border. And in anything that you do, you want to stay abreast.
Yeah.
Next week, Wednesday, I'm going to one of the largest drug and alcohol conferences in Las Vegas.
That sounds like an oxymoron, a drug and alcohol conference in
Las
Vegas. Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to a drug and alcohol conference in Las Vegas so that I can stay abreast just like how I got myself out here in the industry.
Right.
I want to stay and know what's coming. I don't want people to come tell me what's coming.
I want to know.
I want to know what's coming.
Yeah.
So I'm going to that conference next weekend.
Well, good job. Good job. Congratulations once again
you.
on your business, and good seeing you again, by the way.
Yes.
This is a great story. It really is. And I'm so I'm proud of you. I'm pulling for you.
Thank you.
And I know you're going to succeed because you already have. All right.
Thank
so
you.
with that, we're going to get ready to take a break. We've got our